Matthew Dilks playing, of course, Amulet Titan. Going to be taking on Zach Allen playing Esper Control. As I mentioned, the talk of the tournament.
One of the things I also talked to Zach about this morning was the XO curse. You familiar with this?
No, lay it on me.
I think you are familiar. I think you're lying.
Well, I wanted you to share with our
I
viewers,
know, I know. So sometimes a thing that happens is you start a tournament really well, like 9-0, undefeated on day one, and then you do kind of poorly on day two. And I think a lot of that is chalked up to people feeling really good about their record on day one, and they stop trying as much.
Easing up a little bit.
Yeah. And so was talking to Zach about that, and a friend of his walked up and was just like, yeah, you just have to win round 10 and you're golden, right? And Zach was like, I don't know. I haven't been doing well in SCGs this season. And a lot of it has to do with them being modern and him not thinking that Control is particularly good in modern, and Control's all he plays.
Right. Well, maybe he's figured it out now. As you see, one of the black cards we talked about, Nile Spellbomb being cast there. Obviously not ideal in this matchup. Dilks, on the other hand, has the ideal start in the Sakura Tribe Scout. You can argue that Amulet also competes for that spot, but against the Esper Control deck, I'd probably rather have turn 1 Scout than turn 1 Amulet, quite frankly.
Yeah, for sure. I watched Dilks play a marathon of a match last round against Blue-White Control, and just the grind fest is incredible.
Yeah.
So we're probably in for a long one.
I would assume so, but it's an interesting matchup. A lot of decision points along the way, a lot of different game states Amulet Titan can move towards. Often the plan is just Primeval Titan getting basically all your Talaria West and just throwing Primeval Titans at your opponent until they can't take it anymore.
Yeah, and if the Blue-White Control deck is able to stick a Planeswalker like a Jace Teferi, then a lot of the time they can deal with all your Titans. And then it's about whether or not Dilks has a backup win condition like Hive Mind in his main deck, or if he can get enough mana and enough early pressure to enable Cavern of Souls on Construct to make a giant Walking Ballista to finish their opponent.
Right. So I did see Zach Allen tweet before this event, and he tweeted that he had broken the format, by the way, and now sits at 10-0. Usually you see someone tweet something like that, I roll my eyes a little bit.
Especially,
and I say it's not that easy.
Especially for a person who only plays one archetype.
Right.
You know, if you play humans every week, obviously you think it's because the deck is very good, and you probably think that, oh, well, I figured out that I need to play Anafenza in my main deck. I broke the format. But no, Zach is showing up with mostly a brand new archetype.
I think so, and there's enough differences here to identify this as something new. 3 Esper Charms in the main deck, as well as the 3 Nile Spellbombs, and 1 Kaya is the extent of the Black Splash here. Gets a little bit deeper in the sideboard, but we'll talk about that as this match goes on. Meanwhile, here is the namesake card of Amulet Titan, Amulet of Vigor. And looks like that Tribe Scout's just on the beatdown plan right now. A lot of gemstone mines on the battlefield for Dilks. That can get problematic as the game goes on, potentially.
Yeah, you want to use those for mana repeatedly, and then eventually your lands run out, and then you don't have a whole lot of mana to work with going into the later stages of the game. So Dilks is definitely going to need to find some bounce lands at some point, but the deck definitely has access to enough of those that it should be okay.
Oh, there's a black spell I missed in the splash here. 1 cast down as well. And that's going to go ahead and clean up that Sakura Tribe Scout. Zach, content to just play a land, passes the turn back to Dilks.
Got some fatal pushes too, so a lot of spot removal.
Oh, 3 fatal pushes too. Yeah, the black splash goes a little deeper than I first thought.
Creeping Tar Pit, we count that one.
Sure, that does damage.
No Celestial Colonnade, I love it.
Yeah, relying on the Planeswalkers to carry the day. Maybe Snapcaster Mage, who knows. Gotta love those Snapcaster beats. Here's another Sakura Tribe Scout from Dilks. Here's another removal spell, Fatal Push. Gonna clean that one up. Allen gonna go ahead and take a draw here. And I think this early game has gone exactly how Allen wants it, but like you said, it doesn't guarantee anything. These games can very much be a grind.
Yeah, it just matters whether or not Zach can stick a card drawing engine. And I think he is going for a Teferi on this turn, which should pretty much cement things. Like, Amulet doesn't have a whole lot of ways to actually deal with an onboard Planeswalker. There's engineered explosives, which you can get creative with your gemstone mines, and the walking ballista. But Amulet plus a bounce land plus a Primeval Titan would enable some shenanigans for sure.
Yeah, it's a tight window right here. I think Dilks really needs to do something on his next turn, and I do see a bounce land in his hand. So we'll see if he's got the Primeval Titan to go with it. Although when Zach Allen flashed his hand, Path to Exile. So a lot of what-ifs going into this turn. Dilks is going to go ahead and take a draw.
We're going to see some fireworks, almost certainly. I mean, even if the Titan gets hit by Path to Exile, Dilks is going to be able to search up a couple lands, almost certainly a Teleria West and a Simic Growth Chamber. That should help develop his mana a little bit. Oh,
and here's a second Amulet of Vigor.
Oh my.
Yeah, if Dilks has the Titan, this will be interesting. Dilks always looks very disappointed in all of his cards. Here's an Azusa.
So 4 mana floating, first land drop is made. That enables Azusa, so likely a green mana floating here. And 2 more land drops coming.
Players enrolled in the 11:30 Modern Challenge. 11:30 Modern players. Round 1 pairings have been posted at the gathering point to the right of the stage.
And that bounce land coming back down. I think Dilks is baiting here. I think he wanted that Azusa to maybe eat some removal in response to the first bounce trigger.
It's not Zach's first rodeo.
Yep.
Zach knows that Primeval Titan is definitely the scariest card, and right now that Azusa is not threatening his Teferi, and he needs that Teferi.
Correct. Zach has sniffed it out. Here comes Dilks, however, with a engineered explosives on 5, I'm assuming?
I told you could get creative.
One of the best things about this Amulet Titan deck is the capacity to do things like engineered explosives on 5. Crazy stuff there from Dilks. That's going to be it for the turn, though. No threat in hand for Dilks yet. Still searching for that one. And there you see all 3 of those gemstone mines sitting on 1 counter. Dilks definitely feeling the pinch of a somewhat awkward mana draw.
Right, and I mean, he does have the bounce land, so he can reset one of the gemstone mines, but with 2 amulets, you need to keep a bounce land around because that's such a sick mana generator every single turn.
Exactly right. I think the draw was another bounce land there. Or maybe another Azusa. Worth noting, Zach now with Field of Ruin at the ready. And you can play through Field of Ruin as the Amulet Titan player, but it complicates things a lot of the time.
It's also awkward that he has 2 amulets, so you would prefer it to be something that made the land enter the battlefield tapped, potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, weird little interaction there. Dilks just going to play a forest. Go ahead and pass back to Zach. Zach going to cast Opt. I think that's the Jace signature spell book, Opt, one of my favorite ops.
Nah, it's an F&M promo.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. That op does look sweet, though. If I were more like you and played with foils.
I knew I owned it. I had no idea where I got it from. But F&M promo makes sense. Here's another Nile Spellbomb. Again, not the most impactful card in this matchup. At least now, I will say that I think Ramunap Excavator is a very good option in post-board games for Amulet Titan.
It's true. Those are most likely going to get the spell bombs are most likely going to get sided out, though.
I would assume so. Dilks still looking for a threat here. Gonna go ahead, play a bounce land. Looks like with that bounce land trigger on the stack, Zach has some action. Going to go ahead and Field of Ruin on the bounce land. Both players going to go ahead and search their libraries for some basics. Oh, Zach's not finished yet. We're also going to Path the Exile, the Azusa. Dilks can go looking for 2 basics here.
Yeah, with the bounce land trigger on the stack, so that means that Dilks is not going to get any additional land drops out of that Azusa. I mean, Zach doesn't know that Dilks has a backup Azusa, so it's not really that big of a deal, but it is still technically correct, and I like Zach's play.
Path to Exile, of course, putting the land in tapped, so Dilks using it as a bit of a mana boost there. Not bad.
And I think Zach was waiting on that Path to Exile because he didn't necessarily want to fix Dilks' mana issues. But now at the point where you're forced to use the Field of Ruin, you might as well get rid of the Azusa as well. And now Dilks up to 3 forests and a Kabira Crossroads, so the Gemstone Mines don't necessarily need to be used.
That's going to be the one bounced from the bounce land trigger. Here's a Summoner's Pact. Okay, we might be up to something here. There's Primeval Titan sitting on the bottom of the library, ready to go. Dilks says, jam. What you got? Zach Allen says, it resolves. And Dilks is going to go a searching here.
Yeah, here we go. So you can get Growth Chamber, Teleria West.
Looks like that is the plan.
2 Amulet of Vigor triggers on the stack. Could generate 10 mana. Or 8 mana, I guess. So not enough to actually transmute.
Yet. But after this Azusa, we can get to transmuting. And we're going to see a second copy of Primeval Titan here, I think. There you see, bunch of taps and untaps. As that Growth Chamber goes a little nuts. Return it one more time. Replay it one more time. Even more mana. Seven mana floating presently. Going to return Teleria West to hand. Go ahead, transmute that. Searching for a 0 spell here. Dilks choosing either Summoner's Pact or Pact of Negation. I would assume Summoner's Pact here. Don't need Pact of Negation yet. Go ahead and cast that Summoner's Pact. Go grab another Titan. How about we cast that one too? And we do a little bit more searching. And things have officially gone bonkers, Jerry.
Yeah, so now Dilks can get Slayer Stronghold, Boros Garrison, potentially give both of his Titans haste.
Correct. And this kind of plays around Path to Exile in that way.
And then the only thing that Dilks needs to be cognizant of is the fact that he needs to pay for 2 Summoner's Packs next turn.
There may not be a next turn. I mean, this is a lethal attack as it stands right now. So Zach needs to get up to something here. Looks like there is another copy of Path in hand, I believe. The problem is if he paths one and doesn't have removal for the other just goes and gets the Sunhome, and you give it double strike, and the game's over either way. So really need 2 removal spells here. Zach recognizes that, says go ahead. Both Titans attack. Time for 4 more lands to enter the battlefield. Remember how this turn started? Feels like a very long time ago, where they're just a bunch of gemstone mines and an ineffectual mana base, and now you have all the mana in the world and a bunch of lethal attackers. First trigger is going to go ahead, generate a bunch of mana. Second search here. Going to find Sunhome as well as Teleria West. I believe we still have a bounce trigger on the stack, so that Teleria West can return to hand as well. Dilks saying, make all this mana, give all my guys double strike. Yeah, Zach Allen says, yeah, that's good enough.
Double strike one, double strike the other.
2 lethal threats presented there from Dilks. Path to Exile, not enough. Burning that path on the Azusa. Azusa's a scary card. And you see he needed Azusa to actually go off. The problem was a redundant copy in hand left Zach Allen without any real good options there, quite frankly.
Yeah, I said I liked it when the turn started, but then I didn't really think that Dilks would be able to present 2 Primeval Titans. So.
Well, that is what Amulet Titan does.
Should have done the math.
You wait for your window, you find it, and you slam the door shut. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at sideboards here for both players. We'll start over on the Amulet Titan side. You're looking at 4 Path to Exile, 2 Negate, 2 Engineered Explosives, 1 Tireless Tracker, 1 Reclamation Sage, 1 Ramanap Excavator, 1 Pact of Negation, 1 Hornet Queen, 1 Ghost Quarter, and 1 Chameleon Colossus. Jerry, what do you want to do here on the Amulet Titan side?
Big fan of Pact of Negation, Raminap Excavator, Tireless Tracker, and the Negates. You could make an argument, I suppose, for Chameleon Colossus. And I don't know if Dilks is aware of any of the specifics with Zach's control deck and how it's built and everything, but I think those are the cards that I would turn to generally. Like, Engineer Explosives killed a Teferi in game 1.
Don't expect that kind of output generally.
Yeah, and it's also just still not a good trade.
Right. A lot of mana invested there. It'll be interesting to see if they keep the Hive Mind combo in games 2 and 3. I would think not. Trying to resolve that 6 mana source or 6 mana enchantment a little sticky. Meanwhile, Titan much easier to resolve with the help of Cavern of Souls. We'll see what Dilks chooses to do as far as that goes. Over on Zach Allen's side, we are looking at 1 Dispel, 1 Supreme Verdict, 2 Celestial Purge, 2 Collective Brutality, 2 Kalitas, 2 Surgical Extractions, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Unmoored Ego, and finally 1 Detention Sphere. Jerry, what do you like on Zach's side?
Thoughtseize, Unmoored Ego, Dispel for the various packs, probably a Supreme Verdict. And then I don't know how deep you want to go with something like Detention Sphere or, trying to get a clock like Kalitas or whatever. I think the Planeswalkers are sufficient, and that should be enough. And again, it depends on how many cards Zach wants to cut. He has a lot of removal spells in his main deck. Obviously, you want to keep in some amount of that stuff to deal with Titan, Azusa, early Sector Tribe Scouts, but I'm sure there is plenty of cards that Zach can shave.
Unmoored Ego can be an awkward card to play against as Amulet Titan. I think that card is actually a little underplayed in Modern. As much as we generally hate those effects as kind of a competitive community, I think they have their place in Modern where strategies can be hyper-linear and focused on one very specific thing a lot of the time.
Yeah, and Dilks, I think, is lacking in ways to actually close the game if Unmoored Ego on Primeval Titan hits.
It becomes challenging, for sure. We'll see how much Dilks wants to account for that. I mean, that's an argument for keeping in something like Hive Mind, or you just need to lean really hard on your Tireless Tracker, Raminap Excavator stuff. We'll see what happens as far as that dynamic goes. So if you've been watching Amulet Titan all weekend, you're anxious to get your reps in and start learning this deck, why not head out to game night, SCG Game Night? Great place to get those practice reps in. And of course, every week in April you'll be able to pick up those exclusive Cluck and Dagger token and sleeves. Look at that cute little assassin hunting those chickens. I don't approve of any chicken hunting, but still a cute card.
Do you approve of being cute in general?
Yeah, I approve of all cute animals. That's kind of my stance against chicken hunting comes from, but no preference for any one animal. I love them all. Go.starcitygames.com/game night. Pick up your sleeves today.
What if you hunt them, track them down, just so you can hug them?
That's the type of hunting I would definitely be down for. I like the idea of the hunting activity, like spending time in nature, looking at these animals. When you get to the actually harming them part, that's where it kind of breaks down for me.
Yeah.
There needs to be more peaceful hunting going on. I guess that's called photography.
Yeah, bird watching.
I just invented photography. Good for me. Meanwhile, players are shuffling up for game 2 here. Have to wonder if Dilks is going to start to feel the pressure as the day goes on. He knows this has big implications for him as far as the SCG leaderboard goes.
There are big implications, but realistically, I think all Dilks wants to do is just amulet some people.
He loves the amulet life, that's for sure. And there you see Dilks, Ancient Stirrings in up, a key card in this matchup, Cavern of Souls. Big game. Going to want to protect that in hand as long as possible. You don't want to expose it to Field of Ruin. But on that key turn, it can really do some dirty work.
Yeah, I saw him patiently waiting with the Primeval Titan in hand last round against Azorius Control. Eventually found Teleria West, transmuted that, got Cavern of Souls, deployed Primeval Titan. That started the whole chain. And then I think eventually that Cavern of Souls was picked up, replayed on Construct.
Here you see Collective Brutality from Zach Allen. That's going to go ahead and take away one of those Summoner's Pact. I hadn't thought much about Collective Brutality, but now that I think about it, picking off an Azusa, taking your pact from your hand, pretty good.
It's better than a Fatal Push.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
I agree.
And also see the Reclamation stage from Dilks. What do you think that's there for?
I think you just bring it in for safety. You don't know exactly what your Esper Control opponent is going to have in post-board games. Picking off something like the Tension Sphere is very nice. I mean...
Ruined Halo?
Yeah, Ruined Halo's another one I've seen. Spheres sometimes are present, so... you know, you got to account for all those things. Meanwhile, Zach Allen with Unmoored Ego in hand. We'll see if he's able to find a third land to fire it off here. There is a third land. Does he just pull the trigger now and deal with Primeval Titan for the rest of the game?
Things will get interesting.
Yes, they will. It becomes challenging, but not impossible for Dilks to win from that position. One of the good things about Amulet Titan is its resiliency.
I mean, it has resiliency, but a lot of that is because Primeval Titan tends to find more Primeval Titans by searching out Teleria West.
That is fair.
So once all the Titans are gone, that's your engine. And once they're gone, then you have to start scrapping with like Slayer Stronghold on Sakura Tribe Scout, and I don't know how far that's going to get you.
I read Zach's lips. He says, I'm going to cast Unmoored Ego. Does so. Names Primeval Titan. Going to go searching through the library. There was a point where there were more win conditions in the Amulet Titan deck. For a while, Emrakul was a card that was played in the sideboard pretty much specifically for control matchups, but control not as important as it once was.
Another wonderful card that some people play, Zakama, Primal Calamity.
Oh, don't even start. Don't start with the Zakamas.
Rurik Thar.
You'll get me going. Rurik Thar is a fine card. Again, though, it's a card for matchups that aren't as prevalent anymore, and Dilk's not playing a copy. It's rare to see Rurik Thar not make the cut. But there's very little Storm floating around right now, very little of those hyper-fast combo matchups that you generally want Rurik Thar for. But yeah, in these matchups, I mean, there was a point in time when you were playing this matchup and boarding in a copy of Emrakul and a copy of Rurik Thar, and things like Unmoored Ego wouldn't have mattered anywhere near as much. This is not that point in time, though. Meanwhile, that Cavern's now going to name Human. Make sure those Azuzas stick.
Yeah, no point to naming Giant at this point.
No, I agree.
Curious what Dilks' sideboard configuration is.
I don't believe we saw the Hive Minds in Dilks' deck when Zach Allen was sorting through. I think that makes a lot of sense, but you're in this position now and you have to still find a way to win. And here comes a Kaya.
The Amulet Killer. Literally.
Just eats amulets for breakfast. Gonna deal with some of that graveyard. Tick up slowly.
Stay at parity?
Basically. There you see Kaya. Just now finding a foothold in this modern format. It's funny, I was thinking a lot about Kaya. There aren't as many one-drops as you would actually expect, given modern. A lot of the one-mana stuff tends to be spells. One-mana threats not as big as they used to be, but still present, and you mentioned Amulet is a fine target to pick off. There is a Hive Mind. Here is a Summoner's Pact. Did Matthew Dilks just steal this game?
I think he did.
I think he just won basically out of nowhere. So the Hive Minds did stay in the deck, and they were absolutely key here. Zach Allen having to think about that Summoner's Pact and extends the hand. That's going to do it. Matthew Dilks moves to 10-1.
He had the negate too.
Doesn't matter. Negate copies itself. You negate the negate.
I'm saying if he held open negate to counter
on that
Hive
turn.
Mind, yeah.
On that turn. Exactly right. Yeah, and Zach just not expecting it there. A fine draw for Matthew Dilks and able to just steal the game out of nowhere with Amulet Titan.
He saw the hand, the earlier turn.
Yeah.
So Dilks had to runner him.
He did. He did. He must have drawn Summoner's Pact into Hive Mind.
Yeah.
Exactly.